This report has taken on extra significance, of course, since we as a committee undertook our work on understanding why Wales has the highest disability employment gap in the UK at 30.9%. The report's title, Anything's Achievable with the Right Support, has taken on a cruel irony, because while we were hearing as a committee about the extra challenges and systemic barriers disabled people face, it was announced that vital support to enable them to sustain work opportunities was going to be cut. There's a unanimous view amongst policy experts and disabled people's organisation that the removal of support in this way pushes people into poverty, not employment. It was disappointing we had no U-turn on this today from the Labour Chancellor. And it's telling, perhaps, that the Welsh Government, in responding to our report, make no reference to the changes which will have a cataclysmic effect on the financial position and ability of disabled people it serves to be able to work, whether they are already in employment or indeed should they be able to find employment. So do you agree, Cabinet Secretary, that the recommendations of this report are being undermined by the actions of the Westminster Labour Government? Can you tell us how your responses have taken these proposed reforms into account? And do you agree with the points made by the committee in our letter to the DWP about our report that the specific barriers that disabled people face in accessing employment, identified in our report, must be addressed before changes to eligibility and support for disabled people are implemented? Last week, of course, we saw the long-awaited and long-overdue publishing of the Disabled People's Rights Plan. Our report asked for targets in that plan, but there are none in the draft. You don't explain why in your response, so perhaps you could today. We also asked you to deliver your programme for government commitment of incorporating the UN Convention on the Rights of Disabled People into Welsh law during the Senedd term. Incorporating the UN CRPD would ensure that the impact on disabled people is considered for every law and policy developed by Welsh Government. It would mean, in fact, that all the inequalities that are barriers to employment and that are faced by disabled people in Wales who can and want to work would have to be addressed. We know from our scrutiny of this commitment that progress has not been prioritised, has been under-resourced, and the response to our recommendation on this is disappointing. So will you commit today to allocating sufficient resources to enable the Legislative Options Working Group to bring forward recommendations on legislation to incorporate the United Nations Convention on the Right of Disabled People as soon as possible? Are you still committed to taking forward those recommendations? I think disabled people should have honesty on this. I want to turn finally to the report's findings regarding younger disabled people, and particularly the significant and recurring concerns about them missing out on opportunities due to limited guidance or being steered into a narrow selection of subjects and career paths that more readily accommodate reasonable adjustments. It was difficult to hear the testimony indicating a lack of ambition and low expectations from those tasked with advising disabled students, especially those with a learning disability. Those who are not asked, what would you like to do when you're older? Those who are not included in work placement schemes. Despite assurances from the government and bodies like Careers Wales that this should be happening, the evidence we heard showed that it is not happening. So will you please ensure a better focus on raising aspirations in schools for these children and young people? I'm encouraged by the Welsh Government's intention to explore a single operating model for supported employment. In an answer to a question from Mehefin David, who's been such a strong champion of this, the First Minister herself has committed to learning the valuable lessons from the Engage to Change project and to expand access to specialist job coaching and carving. Could you provide more details on how future supported employment provision is being developed? And can you assure us that specialist job coaching will be a key priority for this government? Progress on this matter as a whole has been shamefully slow, and disabled people are now being made to feel even more pressure as a result of the imminent threat of the loss of support before sufficient progress has been made to end employers' prejudice, change cultural and educational attitudes, and increase opportunities for disabled people to be able to take up employment. We must remember that this is not their responsibility, but society's, and it is government's role to lead that change. Diolch.